Hello everyone. Today we'll be reading The Boy Who Sailed the Ocean in an Armchair, chapter 21. This is by Lara Williamson, the publisher is Usborne, and the ISBN number is 978140957632. Chapter 21. When we get back to the flat, I feel as light as a feather in an anti-gravity chamber, because as we drove away from the ocean, Kat said that she'd like to throw us a party. She said she wanted to invite us all around to her flat, since we invited her to ours. There would be lasagna again, and she'd be very good at making homemade chips from sweet potatoes. And her Knickerbocker glories were famous. With who? I asked. With myself, replied Kat, laughing. And that was good enough for me. Truth is, I don't want the evening to end, so I asked Kat to come into our flat and say hello to Dad, because he's always happy to see her. In fact, I say she has to tell Dad about the party invite herself. I'm still chatting to Kat when I turn the key in our front door, and then I hurry down the hallway, calling that Kat is with me. When I reach the living room, I stop. Pearl is sitting on the sofa with Dad, and Billy is between them. Dad beckons me on and says it's great to hear I've enjoyed myself. He thanks Kat for letting me come with her on the job. My pleasure, says Kat, giving me a tiny punch in the arm. You were mighty, Beckett. There's an awkward moment when Pearl shifts on the sofa and says nothing. She smooths down her frilly skirt and tucks her feet underneath. As Kat turns to leave, I remind her that she was going to ask Dad something. Oh yes, says Kat, a nervous smile dancing around on her lips. I'm throwing a tiny party. A strand of hair falls over her eyes as she pushes it back behind her ear. She's wearing earrings shaped like tiny scissors. It was kind of you to invite me to yours, and I thought I'd say thank you. It'll be nothing fancy, mind. Dad looks at Pearl for approval, but her face stays totally straight. Not a smile, a frown, nothing. I'm not sure, replies Dad. Turning back to Kat. Could I let you know? The temperature in the flat has dropped a few degrees, and I pull my coat closer to my body and shiver. Maybe Dad hasn't put the radiators on. Billy, sensing something is wrong, pipes up, Can Pearl come to your party? Thank you, Billy, replies Pearl, as she makes a huge fuss of him. It's not how she's treated him at the party, though. Now she's all over him like a blue bottle on poop. I never seem to get invites to all these parties you two throw for each other, says Pearl. Perhaps I'm not as popular as I thought I was. Kat, her cheeks two red apples, says, Of course Pearl can come, and she'd better get back to her flat and sort out her hairdressing kit because all the combs and scissors need cleaning. Thank you again, Beckett, Kat says, pushing a crumpled £5 note into my palm. We must do it again sometimes. It's a wonder she's a hairdresser, mutters Pearl, as Kat walks into the hallway with Dad. Her hair is atrocious. She looks like she's been in a wind tunnel. I think of our evening together. Kat's hair didn't matter because she was too busy doing everyone else's. And when she wound down the car door so I would see the ocean, she wasn't bothered about how it might mess up her hair. When Dad returns, I don't feel as confident about Pearl being here as I thought I would when I sent that text. This is supposed to be a lovely surprise, but it feels like Pearl's angry, only she doesn't say so. Instead, she plays with a strand of beads that looks like boiled sweets around her neck, saying, Well, isn't this lovely? Since we're all getting along so well, perhaps you'd like to come to my exhibition of nudes, Stephen. Oh, says Dad. Okay, I guess I could come and see it. Pearl dips her head and rests on Dad's shoulder and tells him it's going to be a lot of fun. She follows with a tiny kiss on his cheek, like a chicken pecking corn. Dad brightens and says maybe it would be good, and he's never been to a proper art exhibition before. You were too busy with fish, says Pearl, but since you texted me and begged me to come back, I'm prepared to give it a whirl if you are. Dad looks confused, his eyebrows rising up his forehead like two caterpillars on a lift. So, from tomorrow we can start again. Put the past behind us. Never mention cats or Camille again. Dad pauses, looks at Billy, who nods. He looks at me, and I don't know whether I'm nodding or shaking my head. After a moment, Dad agrees with Pearl, before adding that since it is dinner time, maybe we could get a pizza in. He orders ham and pineapple, and when it arrives, we all eat it sitting in front of the TV like we used to. Pearl dabs the side of her mouth with a paper napkin. There's a smear of red lipstick on white. You know you can't do without me, Stephen. Not really. Look at you, living here in this horrible grimy flat with horrible fake flowers. The lilies are not that horrible, and I want to say so, but I don't. All of a sudden, I feel a wave of sadness that maybe I won't want to talk about Mum to Pearl, like I've just done with Cat. And you've got that awful woman with the squeaky voice from the flat next door. Cat. I do correct Pearl this time, chewing on the crust of my pizza, and she's not awful. I couldn't ignore her saying that. Not after the evening I've had with Cat. Not when Cat listened to me talk about Mum. Like I said, says Pearl, without catching my eye, the awful woman with the squeaky voice from the flat next door. You'll need to get away from her as soon as possible. She glares at Dad, daring him to disagree with her. He doesn't, even though he knows Cat doesn't have a squeaky voice. She is softly spoken. I don't think I've ever heard her say anything horrible. I think about how Cat was today, cutting everyone's hair and telling jokes, making them laugh. I think about how she was with me, making me feel better. Pearl continues, I could paint my nudes anywhere. Perhaps we could go to the city and soak up the art scene there, and you could get a desk job instead of that awful fish delivery job. Yes, Sugar Plum. She pouts as prettily as she can. A desk job isn't bad. He loves fish. He can recite an A to Z of fish from Adriatic salmon to Zambezi parrotfish. Pearl smiles and grabs the last piece of pizza from the box, just as Billy reaches for it. I wait for her to offer it to him, but instead she takes a huge bite right in front of him and then throws the rest of it back down into the box, saying she's full and didn't want it anyway. Next, she eases her body away from Billy and rises from the sofa. So 4 o'clock tomorrow at St. Bartholomew's Church Hall. I'm usually at Tower Point on Mondays, but not tomorrow. OK, says Dad softly. We can talk things through afterwards. I think we need to talk about all this properly. Things need to change. Pearl doesn't respond. Instead, her green eyes flicker like the inside of an emerald. If it was possible to bore through someone with your eyes, Pearl would have just drilled a hole through Dad. The wall behind, the street, the town, the world. I'll show you, says Pearl finally, that you're no good without me. She smiles dreamily. There would be many men who would feel privileged to go out with me. It's on the tip of my tongue to say naked man, for starters. And think of Billy. He needs a mother, and I suppose I'm the only person left to fill that position. Pearl tuts and shakes her head. If only the birth hadn't killed his own mother, things would have been so very different. Dad's eyes explode like millions of tiny fireworks. Oh, I'm sorry, says Pearl quickly. I didn't mean it like that. Ignore me. I'm sorry, Billy. It slipped out. I'm silly. Please forgive me. You weren't involved in your mother's death at all. I was just thinking aloud. On the outside, Billy's smile appears to be flaring brightly, but inside I can see it flicker and begin to die. Sorry, repeats Pearl, her eyes not meeting mine, which is just as well because my eyes are very angry with her. The rest of me is too. I'll get Billy and Beckett to stay with Cat in the salon after school tomorrow, Dad sighs. That way I can come. I don't think we should keep worrying about your neighbour. Pearl looks up again and gives Dad a smile. Dad doesn't smile back. And anyway, Beckett doesn't need a babysitter. I think he's grown up enough to watch Billy for a couple of hours after school, aren't you, love? I nod quickly, wishing Pearl would just go away now. As if she can read my mind, Pearl stands up and waits until Dad finds her pink coat and helps her put it on. 4. Don't be late. Then she leads Dad into the hallway. Once their footsteps fade, Billy, legs banging against the sofa, looks at the half-chewed piece of pizza. It wasn't my fault that Mummy died, was it, Beckett? He says quietly. It wasn't anyone's fault, right? Billy stares at me, the water level in his eyes rising. I didn't kill Mummy. I didn't. No one will put me in prison for it, will they? Ignore Pearl, I hiss, reaching out to him. I give Billy a hug, and when I pull away, I say, You heard her. She said she was sorry and she didn't mean it that way. I think she just got things confused. You know Mum had eclampsia, and that had nothing to do with you. But if I hadn't been in her tummy, then she'd be okay. It's not like that, I tell him. You're telling fibs, Billy cries. I can see it in your eyeballs. The awful thing is, Mum would be alive if she hadn't been having a baby, because eclampsia only happens when you're pregnant. I could kick myself for even letting Billy ask me the question. Billy flicks the remote control and stares at a cartoon on the TV. I want to say, look at me. But he doesn't. Every so often he laughs, clear and sparkly like a little silver bell. But it doesn't fool me. From the hallway, I can hear Pearl repeatedly telling Dad that she doesn't like Kat. Why did he bother texting to tell her to come back if he's still interested in someone else? Dad says he didn't text her at all and hasn't a clue what she's talking about. That's when I jump up like a flea attempting to high jump. I skitter across the living room and fling open the hallway door, thinking I'll pretend I want to say goodbye. Any excuse to stop the pair of them discussing the text that I sent from Dad's phone. But when the door swings open, I see something. Something I don't think I should have seen. Something that makes my stomach flip like a pancake. Something that makes me question everything. My knees buckle a bit. Pearl notices me from the corner of her eye and says firmly, "Be there," before opening the front door. As she's leaving, she gives Dad a peck on the cheek. The lipstick mark is shaped like a broken heart. "It wasn't what it looked like," says Dad quickly after he shuts the door. "What did it look like?" "I don't know, but whatever it looked like, it wasn't that." Dad leans against the wall in the hallway, his bald head crowned by the rose on the wallpaper. I don't say anything else. I just go into the bathroom, glad it's all over. I vow I'll never go out with someone who makes me raise my voice or get cross. I lock the toilet door and stand for the longest time staring into the mirror. Is this what it looks like to be mixed up, confused, sad, scared? Is this what it's like to start growing up? If it is, I want to go back to being little again. If love is about hurting each other, I don't want any part of it. I wish I'd never sent that stupid text now. I wish I didn't know what the grown-ups argue and say and do things they don't mean. I wish the world wasn't so confusing. I wish I'd never been born. I swallow, feeling guilty for thinking that. I tell myself over and over that I'm glad I was born, and I'm glad Billy was too. At bedtime, I'm walking towards our door, and I can hear Billy talking to someone. I peep in through the open door, and then duck back again and rest my head against the wall listening. "I think my mummy would be alive if it wasn't for me, Brian," says Billy. "Why do you say that, Billy?" says Billy, making his voice deep and clearly pretending he's a snail. Although, if it was me pretending to be a snail, I think I'd talk a lot slower than Billy is. Pearl said, if only my birth hadn't killed Mummy, things would be different, Brian. "Pearl wouldn't say so if it wasn't true," replies Billy in his own voice again. "I think that's why Pearl and Daddy argue. They are very cross, and Daddy is very cross because Pearl says Mummy died because of me. But I was very little, and I don't remember it. I must be very bad, Brian." "I don't think you are. Could Pearl be wrong?" replies Billy in his Brian tone. "Oh, I don't know, Brian. She's a grown-up, and they know everything." "We snails know a lot too, Billy." Billy's voice changes again. "I know, Brian." I hear a pause. I want to punch through the wall like a superhero and save Billy, but I can't. But I want a mummy, and it's very hard when it's me who keeps losing them. Maybe if I wasn't around, Beckett could have a mummy for himself. And that's the end of the chapter for today.